Peace and respect to you all. Welcome to Demolish Doctrine, the beginning of the end of religions, and our Wednesday show starring two people I'm learning to just love more and more, BigZebra.com and or Steve, and MacTheHuman and or Mac. So freewheeling it, guys. I'm here to be challenged in whatever you like on whatever, as long as it's talking about a progenitor ancestry in a religion that is ancient in origin. It's all yours. The floor is yours, guys.
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, if we're already here. A friend of mine wanted to ask Richard something about, I'm not even sure which gospel it is. It's about the parables of Jesus. And let me cut it paste into chat here. I mean open public chat, not our private chat. Mm-hmm. And let's see. Pardon me, this is taking longer than I thought. Here we go.
It's okay.
It'll only take a few hours. Okay, here we go. Oh, it's too long a passage.
What book
well,
is
why
it
not
in?
Share screen?
Too late. And here's part 2 of it. And essentially, what it comes down to is that Jesus says he communicates in parables deliberately because other people will not understand. They won't see what they're supposed to see. They won't hear what they're supposed to hear. And it's unfair to ask Richard to re-examine the original Hebrew on the spot, but it just seems like a strange thing from Jesus, and it made me wonder if this was mistranslated.
You'll forgive me. The link I found in the side chat is the Orthodox Jew reference.
Yes, that is something completely different. I was talking about a Jewish atonement ritual, and this is this bit about Jesus.
Oh, you wrote it. You wrote it in the public chat. I was confused. My fault.
Yes.
Peace and respect and welcome, Moon Medi. Somehow it's a little bit of a tongue twister. Okay, and then I would just read this aloud. Then his disciples asked him what this parable meant. He said, "To you it has been given to know the secrets of the kingdom of God, but to others I speak in parables, so that looking they may not perceive, and listening they may not understand."
And to me, technically, that could mean that, well, if I told people these secrets, they wouldn't understand. So I tell them in parables. But that's not how, that's what I would think it would have to mean. But that is not how these sentences read. It reads, Jesus, I'm being deliberately unclear.
It can mean an instruction. A parable can mean an instruction. That's my stab at it off the hip here.
Yes, but they won't perceive it, and they will not. I speak in parables, so they won't understand.
Right. No, because they won't understand. They hear the instructions, where his disciples hear something deeper.
Maybe I just don't. I never. From time to time, I'm occasionally assaulted by something where I would never phrase it this way, because
it sounds like he's like, hey, you guys, they don't know what we're talking about. This is our thing, they don't even know what we're talking about when they hear us. But
It reminded me a lot of Gnostic Christianity, where there was said to be secret knowledge that only the closest knew. And it was a bit like Egyptian religion, where there were specific things you had to do in the afterlife, otherwise you would not be able to gain admission.
oh,
And a lot of Gnostic Christianity was like that. That when you die, you will come towards a gap in the forest with two prominent trees, and you must turn left and then turn right, and that sort of thing. Here comes Richard.
Okay, so what do we got here? I think the key word here is going to be the last word in the sentence, understand. And the reason that I think that, and I haven't looked into this yet, therefore, tauto, tautology, probably something like speak. Speak I assume that's something like I. Okay, so that is speak, to make noise. And so what is this word right here that they left out of the translation referring to therefore? This thing. Therefore this thing. Okay. Therefore this thing speak. And the I is implied, not literally there. To them, and all that looks parable, seeing, see, not, and hearing, hear, not. Actually, hear, not. Neither understand. And understand is the only complicated idea within all of that, I think. It means to send. There you go. The idea of sending it. So to set or bring together in a hostile sense of combatants, to put, as it were, the perception with the thing perceived, to set or join together in the mind, to associate, in other words, to associate ideas. To give an idiom. I just broke my chair.
Oh no.
To give an idiom, having knowledge that pertains to salvation. All right, so there's all that. So I think this is a really solid translation, what they did there. Therefore speak I to them in parables, because they see not, and hearing they hear not, neither do they understand. Now the question left is that a benevolent or a malevolent thing to do?
Well, if it sounds to me like they are. Sorry, there's my microphone. It sounds like as if to me, Jesus is saying they don't understand, they don't hear, they don't see. So therefore, I have to speak in parables, because they wouldn't understand the straight goods. Now, that's what I hope he's saying, but it doesn't feel that way.
I think that's a very forgiving reading, and I don't think it's the case.
All right, show us what you've got.
Well, all I've got is, in a what I think is a continuous context, what I think this can mean. He's literally holding back from them. He's literally not telling them what he could. He's being parabolic on purpose for that specific time. Which is why I said, is this a benevolent or a malevolent thing to do? Well, that depends on the situation. So what's the situation? There they are in the second half of end times. Heaven is in the sky. They refused the first ascension, and now they're in the second half. And I think this is very much like the woman who's following him around saying, heal me. And he goes, you had your chance. So he's berating her for not accepting the whole thing in the first place. and
Did
the
she?
crumbs of the table at the master, things like that.
Well, if I remember right, she was not Jewish. She was a Samaritan. Well, who considered themselves to be Jews. But
Well, if she were a homeborn slave,
yeah.
then she became a slave through adventure, through the slaying of a people. That is
Hmm.
Jesus' testimony. She'd already be in heaven, so she can't be one of those two things. Of course, she has to be some kind of foreigner to Judaism, or foreigner to Judaism and Christ.
Mm. I have to tell you, Richard, it's funny you should pick that passage, because it was I think it might have been my first moment in as a young Catholic boy, that when I heard this particular passage read in church by our priest, I was kind of shocked, because it seemed to me that Christ was being very unchristlike and comparing this woman to a dog, and then she has to.
That's what he's doing.
Yes, and then she debases herself further, or allows herself to be debased in order to get his help. I thought it was appalling.
Let me put this in my perspective for you and see if you seem it's justified.
Okay.
Let's say you tell your kids go to school.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them do, some of them choose not to. Right? And so you warn them, look, if you don't go to school, then you're going to be limited on your job opportunities. But still, and maybe one more starts going to school. But you still got this one kid who's like, I don't see the value in that. I don't think that's real. I don't think that's going to limit my possibilities at all. And Dad, frankly, I think you're full of crap. So you let him not go to school. It's probably a boy. So you let him not go to school. And it comes time that he wants money. So you present to him all of this evidence, all of these ways to make money, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he goes, nope, that's not a way to make money. Nope, that's not either. And he does that for 7 different ways that are going to benefit him.
Mm.
And then finally, after all of that, you kick him out of the house. Is that unjust?
No.
Well,
but
he comes to you and he says, Dad, I want back into the house now. And you say, well, you're going to have to prove to me you learned something. I'm not just going to start footing your bills when you have shown me time and again, repeatedly, you don't care. You think I'm full of crap. I've been supporting you the whole time.
Mm.
I see you've met my father.
I'm sorry you were that kid.
I kind of was. Oof. I'm not anymore.
Actually, I was. But I took the advice about the work, and I went out and got a job that would support me. I didn't just lay around the house saying, "Take care of me, Dad."
Right.
I didn't do that.
Me too.
I went and took care of myself. Yeah. Okay, so by the time you get through the 7 signs of end times, the arrival of heaven, the judgment, and meeting angels, a person should have accepted it. Well, now you're going to have to show me. Now I'm from Missouri. Why? Because people will be starving to death. They'll be eating their young in order to survive. And they'll be going through all of the plagues. Now anybody would lie to get out of it. Oh, I believe. Oh, sure, I believe. Now you're going to have to show me.
I don't know. I don't know if, you know what, I would have to read this particular Bible passage again. I'm not even sure what gospel it's from.
It's in Matthew. I found it.
Matthew 13:13. I brought it up on the screen right there.
Oh, no, this other one about the Canaanite woman who gets the crumbs of the dogs. That's 15:21.
Okay, let's
It
find
has a
that then.
happy ending, kind of. It's 1528 is the final verse in that, and it describes that her daughter was made whole, who apparently had a demon in her. It's interesting because it doesn't say that the woman is okay, but it says her faith was great, and because of that, even as she wants, it will happen. You know, be it unto thee even as thou wilt. And her daughter was made whole from that very hour. It's kind of a good ending, I think.
I'm surprised that she was
It
a
is pretty
Canaanite.
harsh. Yeah.
Well, what's a Canaanite?
Well, I thought they were the ones that the Jews drove out or killed.
That's
but
one of the stories.
yeah, but on the other hand, the Israel were originally Canaanites, as I've been told. So I don't know what to make of it.
Okay, let's find out what the word Canaan means. What do you think of that?
Let's hear it.
Come on, buddy.
Oh, they're just going to give the town. They're not going to.
Oh,
It means
Shenanois.
it means native Gentile. It means a native Gentile.
that's all it means. Okay.
Okay, if I look up, let's see, what's the root word of the word Canaan? What's the name there? There's a Jewish name there. I know it. What is it? Is it Cain?
I hope not. I thought it was. Is it Cain? Are you kidding me?
If it means came from Cain,
I don't know. I hope it does.
Literally lowland. Is
a
what Strong says.
lowlander. Well, from the perspective of heaven, anyone who's still on the earth is of a lowlander, for certain.
I remember this passage differently, that a woman approached Jesus and touched his robe, and he felt the power flow out of him.
Well, that's a different one.
Yeah,
that's going to be a different gospel, but I think it's the same story, is it not? No, that's an issue of blood. Look up issue of blood for that one.
Well, I just might.
Man, I love Wednesdays. It's Matthew 9:20. And behold, a woman which was diseased with an issue of blood 12 years came behind him and touched the hem of his garment.
See, that's what I mean. This stuff, I don't know numbers and stuff, but this stuff is just locked in my brain.
Yeah.
I missed the chapter and verse there. It was Matthew what?
9:20.
Oh,
Matthew
this is
9:20.
interesting. It's Hahi-mor-hi-o. I'll bet that means hemorrhoid. How much you want to bet?
It sort of looks like it. That's the issue of blood?
Hemorrhage.
Hemorrhage, sure. Which is, hemorrhoid is a type of hemorrhage.
And other places in the Bible, when rats come into town and spread bubonic plague, this is a symptom of bubonic plague.
Oh.
Which is why they have to sacrifice golden hemorrhoids and rats to God. You remember that story?
No.
No,
they have to make little
rats.
statues. Yeah, in the Bible it says they had to make golden statues of hemorrhoids and rats.
Jesus.
Come on.
It totally says that.
Wouldn't those be idols under the law?
Well, it would be if you were worshiping them, yeah.
Oh, there's the African humor. I was going to say African humorist.
Humorist?
But African humanist.
Well, please take this time to address her personally.
Yes. The African humorist, or I might call you Ta for short, I promised to tell you a story from when we were in a different chat room. And for those not in the know, I happen to know something about the serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer. Not only a story that I know about him, that he does not. And he didn't even know this story about him when he was alive. So I'm going to tell you this great story that is utterly trivial, meaningless, and stupid, but is also almost as charming as I am. So here we go. Many years ago, I was working in publishing, and I was working for the Canadian agent of Simon and Schuster, the big, giant, big-ass American publishers, who owned another publisher called Scribner, which is a venerable publisher of such classics as Ernest Hemingway and The Great Gatsby. So they were also the publishers of an author named John Douglas, and his name may come to mind because he was one of the very first people at the FBI who went around to prisons all over the United States and interviewed horrifying serial killers. You see, the FBI, of course, had always had enough of a problem dealing with bank robbers or kidnappers, but in the 1970s, it was sort of this huge upsurge in serial killing. And the FBI became aware that enormous amounts of human suffering were being caused by a relatively small number of people who might kill 20 people before they get caught. And one of those people, of course, was Jeffrey Dahmer, who was known as the Milwaukee Cannibal, who killed about 15 men and ate them. So, at any rate, because I was working at Simon & Schuster's Canadian branch, so to speak, we had a publicist, and there'd be requests for interviews by Canadian radio stations, and they'd want to speak to John Douglas, who had written the book Mindhunter, and then other books, my favorite of which is probably called The Cases That Haunt Us, which I would highly recommend. So now, John Douglas, of course, is in regular contact with our publicist, and I am in regular contact with our publicist as well. So she mentions that John Douglas is coming to town, and I said, you know, when you see him, can you ask him for Jeffrey Dahmer's recipe for rice pudding? And then I would end every time I had an email conversation with her, I would write, have you spoke to John Douglas yet? I simply must have that recipe. So this goes on for a couple of months. And she eventually sees John Douglas, and she tells him there's this sales rep who keeps bugging her because he wants John Douglas to get Jeffrey Dahmer's recipe for rice pudding. And I asked her, well, what did he say? And he said that you were sick. And that was it. And that's the story. But I hear that this story has completely failed because neither Mac or Richard were laughing in any way. Maybe you don't find humorous stories that revolve around serial killers to be even remotely funny. But anyway, I promised the African humanist that I would tell the story, and now I have.
It was a fine story.
Yes, it just didn't elicit any response whatsoever. Like the best of stories.
I couldn't track it. If it turned into a Shaggy Dog story, it didn't go anywhere.
Yes.
I thought there'd be a recipe at the end. I don't know.
Yes.
I didn't know if you were just being morbid or like there was some kind of gross thing that he considered rice pudding. Is that what you were doing? I don't know. I don't know enough about Dahmer, I guess.
Yes. Well, I thought, well, you see, the reason why I asked for his recipe for rice pudding, because it probably would have been some sort of brain matter recipe.
Right. It would have been gross.
It would have been disgusting.
Yeah.
And that's why I asked it. And the idea that this expert in depraved human activity took time out of his busy day to let me know that I was sick was very. And Jesus is Lord is in chat. Hi there. Jesus is Lord also goes by rebuke and approve. So if you're wondering, yeah, no, I was not approving of the consumption of human beings. He also ate Asian people and white people. He was an equal opportunity offender there, JL. Okay,
anyway, thanks for explaining. It's a little better with the context. I like the idea of trolling that guy.
I'm really sorry that that took so long, but thank you for giving me the space to tell it, even if it's a story that wasn't well liked. But back to you, Richard and Mac.
I thought it was going to end with fly maggots, actually.
Right, right. It definitely could have ended much worse. So, yeah. Richard, I can't find hemorrhoids in the Bible. Can you help me out with that?
Spell it
Check
this way.
Towards the end. They're at the end.
Come on. Oh, good times.
Okay. Richard wants to kill me.
So open up the middle, open up in the middle, and then fold back the flap underneath, and well, there you go. It's under the binding. Spell it this way: EMMERODS. Emerods.
Okay. Archaic term for hemorrhoids.
A term for hemorrhoids. There you go. Emerods.
Yeah.
Wow. Way to go with the memory there.
So they have to make golden statues of emerods, and it says mice. It could be rats. But either way, it's true that hemorrhoids is an aspect of deterioration within the Black Plague, within plague. Now, rats and mice that are in the wild always carry Black Plague. Always. There's no two ways about that. They have it today. Okay? But what caused the Black Plague to move into populated areas is when we had a volcanic eruption that made the sun not strong enough on the earth to grow plants in that hemisphere. And so there were no crops in the fields, and the rats and mice chased the grain stores into town, bringing the plague into town.
I see.
For more information, see The Year with No Summer.
I've heard of that.
Ring Around the Rosy, Pocket Full of Posies, right. Ashes, Ashes, We All Foul Down. We've all heard of it.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, so hemorrhoids, emerods, carried by rats, a resurgence of the plague during end times.
Yeah, I think, Richard, with the Black Death was the one where people had all sorts of terrible pustules, and they would bleed from them all over their body.
That's literally what Ring Around the Rosy means.
Ah, okay.
A black ring around a rosy red spot that is going to burst open and bleed, yeah.
You put a pocket full of posies to mask the aroma
of dead flesh everywhere.
Right. Yeah, it's a cryptic song.
Ashes, ashes, they burnt the bodies, which, by the way, may not have been a great choice.
Right.
Yeah, I wonder, because I've heard that before, that that poem or rhyme was about the Black Death. I'm not 100% sure that everyone agrees, but it certainly is very creepy.
well, lest the children forget, we teach them a song, and when they grow up, maybe they'll learn what it means.
Yes, another good idea. Ring around Rosie. Meaning, thank you, Google. But of course, it's the thing that I'm looking up considered accurate.
What do you mean?
What did you find?
Well, I landed at a Wikipedia page,
Which
and the
reads,
thing is 1,000,000 miles long.
Huh? Cool.
So I'm not sure whom to believe. I'll put the link in open chat if people are interested.
well, is it in reference to the plague or not?
Oh, some of it is, yes.
Okay, then I'd say it's probably somewhere in there. It's talking about the Black Plague and what it looks like on your skin.
Right.
There.
For rebuke and reprove, since you're preferring that name right now, the topic is, what is the Bible talking about? How does that affect us in real life? What is the prophecies trying to tell us in the cryptic parables of Christ and other cryptic parables? That's the topic. Anything within that is fair game. Anything.
Well, could we loop back around then to the lady with the hemorrhoids? I don't mean to be crude. We sort of got off track at that point, I think.
Sure.
The Matthew 9:20.
So a person might think that Jesus is being unjust, saying to her, you're a dog, and I don't have to throw scraps at dogs. But he is trying to purposely provoke her and challenge her to see if she's being genuine, since she's already been refusing heaven for about 6 years. She's already seen all the signs, and probably, I think in that part of the story, most of the plagues actually happen as described, as well as being judged by angels. She literally already met angels.
Right.
Okay, well, I mean, there's only so many ways for you to justify the existence of an angel. Okay, it could be an actual angel, or here's an option. It's a biological created by space aliens to imitate angels to trick me into being a food source. Okay, I'm not saying that's not possible, but wow, they're really beautiful, highly intelligent, gentle, and caring, having great technology, biologicals imitating angels. In other words, they seem to be actual angels.
Right.
Okay. So why would he not go, now you have to prove it to me?
What did he actually say that? What is it that Jesus says to her again?
Something like, I don't have to throw scraps at dogs.
Yes. So she has to prove that she's worthy now, is what you're saying.
He's trying to provoke her. He called her a dog. That's, he's insulting her on purpose.
He came to her, or she came to him, because she was looking for mercy for her daughter, who was vexed with the devil.
Yeah.
And he was like, get out of here. She's bothering us, basically. And she said, but I am not sent but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And then she came and she worshiped him, saying, Lord, help me. And he answered and he said, it is not meet to take the children's bread and to cast it to dogs. MEET. And she said, truth, Lord, yet the dogs eat the crumbs which fall from their master's table. So she's arguing with him, it sounds like, and saying, that's true, but we still get some of the crumbs. And then Jesus was like, okay, well, your faith is great, and even unto you as thou wilt. And her daughter was made whole, who was the original.
Can we go through that one line at a time? Because each of these are deep expressions. There's nothing casual here.
Right.
Would you read the first one you read and stop at the end of the line?
Totally. So the first one is Matthew 15:22. And behold, a woman of Canaan came out of the same coasts and cried unto him, saying, Have mercy on me, O Lord, thou son of David. My daughter is grievously vexed with a
That is
devil.
way too much.
Oh, sorry. It's one verse, but So she came out of Canaan.
Okay, stop. Let's stop right there.
Yeah.
What's the word Canaan mean?
Right. Lowlands. We pursued that already.
It means lowlands, and this is a people who are not believers. They're not Jews. Okay, so
Right.
so they're outside of belief and they're considered to be low. Next line.
Okay. And she cried unto him. Want to stop there?
Okay, cry. I think that's pretty obvious. She's just trying to get his attention. Go on.
Okay. And she said, Have mercy on me, O Lord, son of David.
Okay, so what's son of David mean? And what's Lord mean there?
I mean, traditionally, I would understand that to be acknowledging his position and his lineage.
Right,
Yes,
so she's
because-
recognizing him as a what?
As God.
She's calling him God. She's calling him the Christ.
Or
Okay.
the anointed, the King of Israel, the Messiah, who is
Right.
supposed to be of the line of David.
Right.
Right. All of those ideas are wrapped up in that. What's the next line?
My daughter is grievously vexed with a devil.
Okay, what's devil mean?
Let's grab that. Vexed with a devil, daimonizomai,
Or demon.
possessed with devils, possessed with the devil, of the devils, vexed with a devil,
Demonized.
have a devil. Yeah, be under the power of a demon.
Right. Okay, she's under the power of a demon. All right. What do demons do?
You know, they lie, mislead.
Okay, she believes lies.
Right.
See, the woman who's there is only sticking around for her daughter. The woman isn't the
Right.
problem. Now, the woman has already gotten the plague. She's got hemorrhoids. She's got an issue of blood. She got some big problems, but she won't leave because of her daughter. In other words, she won't take the ascension because her daughter believes a lie. What would the lie be that keeps them both from going? What is that lie?
Probably that they shouldn't do it, that they shouldn't believe the angels and they shouldn't, obey.
A little general, but good enough. It's defined enough. Let's go on to the next line.
All right. But he answered her not a word.
Okay, but we don't need to explain that. He didn't answer.
Right. And his disciples came and besought him, saying, Send her away, for she crieth after us.
Okay, you'll notice that the apostles there are like, I've got no mercy for this person. None. Let's get rid of it. Let's we don't even need to address this. But it is annoying, apparently.
Right.
What's the next line?
But he answered and said, I am not sent but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
What are the lost sheep of the house of Israel? What does that mean?
The believers.
Why are they lost sheep then?
Well, they aren't adhering to the covenant.
Oh, right.
Okay, what's the covenant?
The Ten Commandments and the other laws that fall under Mosaic law.
No, it's not.
It
That
isn't?
is not the covenant at all. The covenant is you're going to be ignorant and I'm going to save your butt. Accept my saving. That's the covenant.
Excuse me.
Oh.
Sorry, I hope that cough didn't go right into your ears.
It was
You're
fine.
fine.
It wasn't that loud, actually. You muffled it okay. The covenant is man on earth eventually accepts God. And when man does, God automatically, because of that, accepts man. That's the covenant.
So the lost sheep are the ones that don't believe yet.
There you
That's
go.
who
That's why they're
who he's
still
there
there.
for. Yeah.
That's why they're still there.
I don't know. This passage could be interpreted as Jesus being willing to reach out to the Gentiles or the non-believers.
That's what it's saying.
But it also her daughter was only healed because she had faith. And if she has faith, she's not a non-believer.
Let's not be magicians here. I don't think it's describing. I know Christians say that all the time, and I apologize, but I don't think it's talking about magic here.
Okay.
And let's not forget that this is a summary of a situation. It's not everything that was said necessarily. Okay, so what this whole thing does not include is what thing Jesus told her that she could give to her daughter that was a truth that would get rid of the lie. That's not here.
Right.
But since it's talking about demons, and demons have no actual power, and demons' only ability is to mislead with lies, then the problem is the girl believes a lie. That needs corrected. Now, lies are not corrected in atheists through magical powers. It's by revelation of truth. The truth that's revealed is not in this. It's just not there. Does that make it a little bit vague and kind of, yeah, I think so. But the truth is told so many times otherwise, it would just be another repetition of the same truth. So I don't think it's necessary that it be here. I mean, it's said all the time. So,
by the way, Richard, you mentioned that I don't know which of the two women it was, but one of them had seen angels and had the proof she needed. I think that's what you meant.
At this point, both of them would have.
Yeah, but how do we know that? I mean, maybe it's referenced in the Bible somewhere, but
anyone can read the Bible and they can adopt whatever context they find appealing to them.
Sure.
I demand a continuous context that works within itself. That is coherentism. I think without coherentism, you have a modge podge and can make whatever you want. Which is why I don't accept those explanations. What's that?
Yeah, but what's in the Bible that would tell us that she had seen angels?
Okay. Are there 7 signs that announce the arrival of heaven, which happens during the glory of God at the 3.5 year point, and then is judgment by 12 gates, 12 individual pearls, that is 12 angels, or is there not?
I don't know when that was supposed to happen.
I just gave it to you.
No, but you said the 3.5 year point. You mean into Jesus's ministry, or?
That's why Jesus's ministry after that is 3.5 years, because that's all that's left.
Okay.
That's why it's 3.5 years. Because that's half of 7.
Okay.
Those are approximations, however. They're not exactly to the day, 3.5 years, etc.
Oh, sure. I mean, we don't know exactly what day Jesus was born either.
Well, let's not get it. Let's not change the topic there. That's
sure.
It does say. Actually, it does say.
Huh.
And I can show you the chart. It's actually pretty.
You know what?
simple.
I don't want to disturb your train of thought here.
So let's go back. Let's go back. Yeah. You've witnessed the 7 signs of literally biblical proportions using materials that cannot be replaced, performed by, at such a large scale, humans literally can't do it. And then these objects behind me arrive onto the planet, and you meet things that look, act, talk like the description of an angel. There's an ancient expression in atheism: if it quacks like a duck and it walks like a duck, it swims like a duck and it eats like a duck, it might be a freaking duck. But will the atheists that proclaim those kinds of things in that time meeting angels accept that they met angels? Well, some won't.
just out of curiosity, I thought that these references to the 12 signs or this or that is from the Book of Revelations, right? Oh, but are they referenced in the Old Testament or in the Gospel somewhere? And I just don't know it.
Read Israel and the blessing on his 12 sons, which are a description of the constellations. Realize that everyone is born sometime during the year and are of a tribe of Israel naturally. Mm-hmm. They can refuse being of their tribe, of course. But that doesn't mean they weren't born on the earth during a month. They still were. This makes them the lost sheep of Israel when they refuse it. Which is why Jesus says things like, I am a physician here for the sick, not for the well. The well are fine. But when he says sick and goyim and nations and Gentiles and all these terms, he's talking about the people who don't yet get it. Which is his whole job. You have heard, but I say. That's his whole job. So of course she's in the second half. Of course she's already refused heaven. Now, in the case of the woman with the hemorrhoids, everybody's got hemorrhoids. I know it's not mentioned, but if you're not under the shell of protection of God, that is the army of the 144,000 and the teachers, you're going to have hemorrhoids. You know why? Because you're eating the stuff that you can find and scrounge around. You get no manna from heaven. He's only taking care of the army, the people of Israel, his true chosen, get the manna from heaven. Everyone else is picking in fields and eating dead rats. Okay, so yeah, they got hemorrhoids. Now, she's sick of it. I'm sure she's sick of it. That's why she's begging at the coattails of the teachers. But the reason she's staying is not even for herself. And as soon as Jesus knows that, he changes his tune.
You know what? I'm going to email you a bit about this further, Richard, to make sure. Or actually, I'll write it down right now if you can give it to me. You mentioned to read some passage about Israel and the 12 something or other.
Yeah, the 12 gates. Oh, you mean the blessings of Israel on his 12 sons? You want me to go over those with you?
Well, actually, if you gave me the reference so I could read it, like is it
Israel bless sons?
Okay, Israel. Okay, and I will look around for it. If I can't find it, I'll email you.
It starts, first of all, there's a pattern to the blessings. Okay, and that same pattern is repeated, oddly enough, at the end of the story in the book of Revelation, in the stones of heaven, in the stones of the wall of the foundation of the wall of heaven, those same 12 stones. Now, except for that, the Benjamites, they didn't like the color pink in sardonyx, so they changed it to black to onyx. Other than that, all the stones are the original colors. Now, those stones are mentioned in the book of Revelation, and the cardinal directions are mentioned. And that is first east, then north, south, then west. And 4 stones are given. If you put the stones in that order as given in those cardinal directions, a natural color chart flows out of that. You just put the other stones in color order as they belong. And he mentions the stones in a specific order. So it all goes together. Then he mentions the 12 apostles. And there are stones associated to them, the same stones, but a different order. This makes a color offset chart. This is getting too complicated. I should stop right there. Okay, so So the blessings on the tribes of Israel are the signs of the zodiac, except for only one. Now, if there's one left over, I have nowhere else to put it but in that slot. But both of them are wild animals you wouldn't keep as pets. One's an eagle, a Kia, the original, which we now call Scorpio. Fine, it's a Kia, the eagle. And that's in the place of Benjamin or Benjamin the wolf, which is another wild animal you would not own as a pet. You're not going to domesticate eagles and wolves. That's not going to work out for you. So that since it's the only one left, for instance, the tribe of Levi has an association to the scapegoat. And the sins are the priest puts the sins of the people on the goat. That represents, that's Capricorn, Satan, the goat, and the priest. That's position north. Position west is Joseph, the ram, which is Aries. Position east is Libra, the judge, the Omega. That is, I am the judge, the beginning and the end. It's the end. It's east. And south is Issachar, whose sign is Cancer. And Cancer is not a crab. It's a planet chasing itself on an orbit. That's why it looks like... Huh?
A strong ass crouching down between two burdens. That's what it says Issachar is.
Right. And Issachar
awesome.
is... Their sign is a singular sphere with 8 spheres around it. That's the Earth and the other 8 planets. So it's talking about planetary positions in their symbology of both Cancer and Issachar. I could fill in all the rest, but you'll get bored. But it's a 1-to-1 match. The man carrying a pitcher of water, the men who go out on the water, the seafarers. It's the same thing. Yeah. And it goes all the way around. It's perfect.
The serpent.
So, what serpent?
Dan shall be a serpent by the way, an adder in the path, that biteth the horse heels, so that the rider shall
That's going to be
fall.
a future story. That's not going to be the first story. That's not going to be the first story. There's an earlier edition of the blessing. You have to find the first one.
Okay. This is in Genesis. Is there one previously in Genesis?
Now you're going to make me look it up. I don't remember where things are.
I'm sorry. That's bad.
It's okay.
I know you don't.
It's
okay.
I
shouldn't do that to you. This is Genesis 49.
I literally can't remember where things are located unless I pay special attention to where it was.
Well, I'll dig a little deeper. But
let's see.
Pretty cool stuff.
What's the difference? The twin tribes, the twin trees, the twins, Gemini, the twin tribes, Manassas, the split tribe. Taurus the bull, Reuben the bull. Then you got Joseph the ram, Aries. I already did Aquarius, which is Zabulon. Levi, that's north, the priest and the goat. Then comes Simeon, the warrior, the weapons of war, the archer and the swordsman, which is Orion. They also represented in the constellation Orion, which is not even part of the zodiac, but a slightly larger story with more detail. Moving on from there, Benjamin, the wolf, which is Akia, the eagle. The balance is the judge, which is east. I'm going in eons, not in a year. Sorry, I tend to go to in eons.
Sure.
Of not 2,000, but 2,160 years. I applaud you for saying they're 2,000 years apart, biblical scholars. That was very close to reality, but you're wrong. I can show you're wrong because Earth year is 365.250138888 days. It's not 365.25. That's wrong, and it'll throw off your measurements. NASA says that equates to 0.1 1188 seconds per day, by the way, if you're interested in that. And yeah, we had to figure that out because the space program, it matters. Moving down from that, below east, you get east by southeast, which is Ashur. That is Virgo, the virgin with the sheaves of wheat. The on the Israeli flag of Ashur or Virgo is a literal sheaves of wheat. That's exactly the same, except for it's missing the woman holding it. And then you have Leo the lion and or Judah, the tribe of Leo, the lion of Judah, etc., etc. All those references to Christ.
Sure.
And then you have Issachar at south, which is a planetary reference. Going on from there in eons, you run into, I've named them all. That's it. That's the whole circle. You run back into Taurus. Let's see, Issachar, Manasseh, the split, the twins, and then Taurus on. That's all of them. So saying born of the tribe of Israel, like saying baptized, is just saying lived on the earth. Baptism by water means you had a hard time, that is to say tribulation, not the great tribulation, but you were cast out into the waters, that is to say you were born into the earth, and a group of people who are slightly misled. And there's trouble. There's always a tumult on the waters, you know.
Right.
There's no calm waters there.
I often thought that because the ancient Hebrews, and to this day, have ritual cleansing by, what's it called, a mikvah? Ritual
where they wash themselves before prayer?
Yeah. And it made me wonder if that isn't a sort of theme, and in part what Noah's flood was supposed to do. It wasn't just to kill all these people, but it was also supposed to cleanse the earth. Oh no, Richard is mincing.
It doesn't kill people. The word waters is identified definitionally once in the whole Bible.
Oh, right.
So it means a large group of people. Now, it is absolutely a fact of our nature that we elevate the ark. So the waters do elevate the ark. That's just a fact. If there's Christianity, then waters elevate the ark. But the ark is over the waters, not floating on the waters. It's higher than they can reach. The name Noah means the giver of rest. And the resting time throughout the Bible is referred to as ascension. We ascend and then you rest. But Noah is the giver of rest. The word gopher, where we get the word gopher because they're ground dwellers, they dig a hole and live there, and they stay in that hole. That's what gopher means, is to be permanently housed. The word ark means a container. Right. It literally reads, above you is the giver of rest who provides a container for you to be permanently housed in. And that's what the story's about. It's about heaven. See, it's a scene of end times. Or we can go to Isaiah and talk about the six-winged angel in the air over the crowd of people who are near water and have campfires, and they're barely surviving. They're barely getting along. And here's this six-winged angel covering up his face saying, I'm not human. Covering up his legs saying, I don't walk. And hovering in the air above their heads. I'm a non-human, non-walking, flying thing. You get it? Okay.
You know, you've referenced that you expect atheists to be resistant to the claims of angels, but there will be a lot of Christians as well. I mean, I see it all the time on Christian forums and stuff, to beware of things claiming to be angels from the sky and things like that. It's a pretty big idea right now out in that universe.
Yeah. Oh, I absolutely agree with you. But that is why the story has traditionalists who need corrected and non-theists who need taught. That's the whole Bible right there.
Right.
I mean, I just in difficult times where people are starving to death because there's no resources, the government is totalitarian in all cases, always. And they're always in small groups. Whenever Jesus saves someone, even if he returns to the town, they don't come and give him a thank you note or a hug or anything. It's because they're not there. That's because they ascended. Because all of this is just using the history of the planet to describe end times. Now, did like things happen in the history of this planet? Yeah. Was there a plague of frogs? Get off of me, dude.
Right.
There was no plague of frogs. Could there be a plague of frogs with heaven in the sky manipulating stuff? Well, yeah. Yeah, there can. Can there be a plague of rats and hemorrhoids? You betcha there can. All he's got to do is release a bunch of frogs. There's no food for them. They're going to die and stink up the joint. Yeah, that'll work fine.
They're not bad as food, frogs, unless they carry the salmonella, which a lot of them do.
Use Dawn dishwashing liquid if you have any. If not, use a lot of running water and scrub thoroughly. Frogs are perfectly good for eating.
Yeah, they really
turtles
are.
too have salmonella.
That's right. You have to be careful of those critters.
What you do is you knock the salmonella out of them with a hammer. And,
wait a minute.
What?
Oh, that may not be right. I may be thinking of chicken. And you use hammers on them.
Yeah, right.
Sorry, that's not helpful commentary at all. I usually.
It is funny.
Steve, the stuff really starts clicking when you start just assuming that almost all of the stuff in the Bible is prophetic or is describing a future event. Maybe prophetic's too loaded of a term. It's describing what will be happening in an expectant sort of obvious way. So as long as you like contextualize it that way, it starts to like things like the plague of frogs. Like we know as modern humans that almost nothing described about the Jews in exile in Egypt is historically true, according to any archaeological evidence. It didn't happen like that. There weren't Jewish slaves in Israel. There might have been, but they weren't like a whole, like there were a couple maybe mixed in, but there wasn't a whole like captive slave race there, for instance. And they weren't the ones building the pyramids. Like we're pretty sure of that. Like there's all kinds of flaws in it all. Just the kind of common understanding of it. But if you say, this is an analogy for the difference between the people that are, automatically or quickly convinced to, leave the planet with these beings, and the people that are not, quickly convinced, like that division, that's the division between the people behind and the people already on board. Things just start to click. They really do start to click. It's really startling, actually, how everything.
I just
starts
found
to fall
terms
into place.
for both of those people in the hyperliteral translation that I'm doing.
Oh,
I just found terms for them. Those who are able to accept new information and change their mind readily are called the early birds. Isn't that an interesting term?
No kidding. What's the original term in Hebrew?
Early birds. I just told you.
No, I meant that. But in the Bible, it might not have been translated.
It should read early birds.
Yeah.
In the Bible, it says something like Echelach. It's a name that means nothing to you.
Yes.
It's a Jewish word that means nothing to you, but the word translates as early birds.
Oh, okay.
But it's not talking about a name. That's the context where it's a list of names, and that makes no sense. But if you translate the names, it's perfectly solid. And that's no good at remembering numbers. Actually horrible at it.
That's okay.
I once, a long time ago, read a book where one of the characters was sort of a philosophical type, and he divided the entire human population into, he called them neophobes and neophiles. And specifically, it was people who, neophiles are people who are excited and eager when presented with new information and new ideas, and neophobes are people who are threatened and hesitant. Afraid of new ideas and new information. Reactionary was the word I was looking for. It's been a helpful thing for me to think about in terms of people, understanding people.
You could also call them early adopters. If they have money, I mean. And here's Richard.
Okay, so I want to find this for you, the early birds. It's the first list of names that appears in the text. And I think that's somewhere around clean beasts. Okay, the kind that ascend, the kind that don't. It should be right after this. Witness Adam's sake, sure understanding of the heart, while mankind understanding of the heart is surely like evil lions whelping, while lions whelps, shaking in their head and roaring. Neither again did Jehovah slaughter. Covenant of the rainbow. This stuff. Covenant of the rainbow. Let me just read you just a sample of this, because wow, it's not what the English turned out to be. Angels blessed Noah, the giver of rests, in his family building block sons, and said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the firmament. He's putting people on the planet. Oh, wait, this is after ascension. So this is welcoming them into the ark, into heaven permanently.
Right.
And the fear of you and the dread of you will be upon every beast that walks on the planet firmament, walks on the earth soil, and upon every fowl of the air. And upon that is not true right now. We get killed by grizzly bears and stuff, sharks. But apparently they're going to have respect for us when we're in heaven and quit treating us like a food source.
By the way, Richard, if I can interrupt, see the part where it says be fruitful and multiply and fill the firmament? I thought firmament was the word for the sky.
Well, that's a misunderstanding of Christianity, actually. Actually, what it says is sky below the firmament, not sky is the firmament. See, it divides the waters into two parts in Genesis. The waters above throughout the firmament, and the waters below on the firmament. That is, there are beings, there are multitudes of beings in a place that is hard and rounded above, and there are multiple beings on the outside of a hard round thing below.
Right. It comes up again, I just realized, in your 9 verse 2. The firmament of heaven. So heaven's firmament is actually that which exists on earth.
Heaven's firmament is that which exists on earth?
Well, you see, and the fear of you and the dread of you will be on every beast of the firmament. Firmament. Yeah. And upon every blah, blah, blah. Oh, no, that move in the firmament of heaven.
Yes, they're inside heaven.
Right, okay.
They're not in the sky. There's no grizzlies up there, by the way.
None, I checked.
Right.
Okay.
The things that don't eat us aren't in this. The things that can eat us aren't in the sky. So there's no way to read it other than heaven uppercase, where if Christians want to read it heaven lowercase. And of course, because of that heaven uppercase right there that they think is lowercase, they have to move that reference to fowl of the air, referring to birds.
Interesting that 9...
Which means they have to take away the phrase, all that move.
Yeah.
because it should read all that fly, when literally it says upon all that move.
Maybe, right. Well, there's also, it doesn't have any concept of what is kosher at this stage.
Yes, well,
9.3's
kosher law.
Yeah.
That's another topic. Okay, so what
That's
I'm pointing
true.
out here is because this is a literal word for word right here. I only put words like and of,
Mhm.
and that's it. I did choose here to capitalize the word heaven. All right.
Right.
And maybe a person doesn't agree with me on that particular point. Right. But because this already says upon every fowl of the air, meaning sky, right? The King James just completely dropped this upon all that move in the firmament. Because they said, well, it already says in the firmament of the sky. It already says that right here. So they just drop it because they couldn't make sense of it. Now that's leaving out two major ideas, firmament and heaven, from the and the word move. Three major ideas. Wait, upon. They also dropped upon. So upon, move, firmament, heaven was all dropped in that one sentence. I just didn't drop it. I kept it. But anyway, I wanted to go over this list of names with you.
Yeah, sorry, I sidetracked you there.
And we're way over time already, but I want to still do this before we kill it.
Definitely.
Where is it? It's kind of probably going to be the next section. Oh, here it is. All these names. So the first time I wrote them, I wrote the names and the translation beside them. That's the dash.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, the word building block sons in the English comes out just sons or children or daughters. Okay. But it's the idea of building up your family. So I include building block sons. Noah is the term the giver of rest. That is translated in the English as Noah, but that's a literal translation of what the word Noah means. So it will be better for the building block sons of the giver of rest to proceed into heaven. Well, no kidding. And where do those come from? They are of Shem. Shem means appointed name. If you get really specific, it's the appointed name of conspicuous position. If I said there was one of an appointed name of conspicuous position, that can mean only one thing in the Bible. Ham, those who grew warm. And Japheth, those open to persuasion. Now, if you can think of a category that doesn't cover him who is appointed by name in a conspicuous position, that's one group, actually one person. And then those who grow warm and those open to persuasion. If you can think of a third group, I'll hear it. Oh, Canaan means subjected by traffickers.
Huh.
Or merchantmen. The merchantmen of the lowlands. Talk amongst yourselves. I'm of the klepts. And entertain yourself. I have to tend to something just real quick. I don't know what it.
Right.
No problem.
So I guess I assume the bit about the subjected by traffickers is the common suspicion that every retailer is ripping you off because they're making a profit and you don't know how much.
Oh.
And of course, when someone is from outside your group and comes to sell you something, you're always worried that
Right.
this outsider might be, yeah, or vice versa. They conspire to take advantage of the outsider.
Right.
And Richard is back.
Yes, I is. Where are we at here?
Subjected by traffickers.
Yeah, subjected by traffickers. Okay, so it will be better for the building block sons of the giver of rest to proceed into heaven, those of appointed through actually literally him of appointed name. Those that do this, those who grow warm and those open to persuasion, because Ham, that was those that grow warm, is the chief of the kind that the beginning of, or the larger category, those that are subjected by traffickers. Now, I think that's just true. These are the three types of building block sons of the giver of rest, and of these, the whole earth was populated. Yes, because it covers it. It only divides it into two major groups, but okay. And it pained and grieved the giver of rest to begin the gathering of grapes. Beginning the gathering of grapes subjected them to desperate wickedness. And Enos is the certain husbandman of the blood-dyed red earth because of planting that vineyard. So this is literal translations of all the names. Of course, you may or may not recognize this as Noah gets off the ark, which is how it comes out in English. And Noah, implied, not directly written there, the giver of rest, drank of the apportioned effervescent wine and was abundantly merry and drunk on it, and became obvious, ending the mystery in the midst of their clear and shining temporary tabernacle. That's the word tent. The word tent in the English should read shining temporary tabernacle. The kind whom their father is the stream of water irrigating and bringing forth. Yeah, that's what I do. I'm reading this and I go, oh, that was cute. Okay, so there's a sample of the list of names that people read and they go, well, this is boring as hell. So those who grew warm are the chief of the Canaanites, those subjected by traffickers, who grew warm, then perceived it was made naked to them, the pudenda, that's the part of your body that twists and turns as you walk at the very lowest point between your legs, and most intimate shames of the chief father. And those who grew warm were messengers to his brothers. Wait a minute. Those who grew warm were messengers to his brothers. And the other two brothers who were severed abroad. Okay, so you know who the two brothers severed abroad is. They just list them in the two kinds. And you have the one who is the messenger. That's pretty obvious throughout the text. But the one who is messenger is one who grew warm. That is to say, begotten of the dead, or became, or realized, not born that way. I don't know. That's a lot all at once. I should stop or slow down or both. Okay, so do you guys see that, or does that need further?
You didn't really land on the early bird, but you definitely got the idea across. I mean, no literal, like, straight translation to the concept of an early bird. But you definitely talked about, people eager to be convinced, and the two different categories of humans.
Well,
so that's
in context that I'm seeing here, the word early bird just means somebody who was part of the first ascension, not the ascension, but of the first ascension, the primary ascension of people up off the planet, that they were just more able to accept the new paradigm, and that's all that it means. It would be a very mixed group of religious and non-religious people who thought God can't exist at all, and all that. They'll all be fine. Because they've got 3.5 years of signs, and then they meet angels, and the angels are like, look, I'm physical proof that you'll be fine. Just accept becoming part of the intergalactic society. You're going to be okay. It's not that shocking.
By the way, Richard, trying to follow this, how this develops. So Noah and the ark are they actually taking the inhabitants of the ark to heaven?
Is Noah and the ark taking the inhabitants of the ark to heaven? The ark is heaven.
Okay, so these people didn't return to Earth, though.
Yeah, they never will.
So this So the population of the Earth then
Yes.
just continued to exist as normal, but Noah and his brethren ascended into heaven, essentially.
No, not at all.
Oh, okay.
This is talking about the whole planet. None of this is small, one plane near Egypt perspective. None of it. Sure, the people lived there. Sure, that small part of the world was used to explain all those things. It doesn't make it that small part of the world. Not at all. It's only an example of a larger picture. And God doesn't care if you masturbate. Just by the way, let me throw that in there. It's not a concern. For me, I'm like 5 times a day, bro. Really not a concern, okay? But it's actually talking about a much larger view frame, a much larger picture than something like a couple Jews or Hebrew in the Middle East. It's not the right context. Okay, so the giver of rest invites all of his family, all of them without exception, into the permanent, the container to be permanently housed in. And this is told several times. Upon elevation into heaven, you will never again live on an earth. That's very clear. But then it says there'll always be a new heaven and a new earth. Okay, so let's look at it like the story is actually talking about the actual heaven. The giver of rest and or the Father, the one who conducts end time, the one who gives rest, invites his entire family in. And if you go and you look at the wedding ceremony stories and the wedding feast ceremony stories, there's some that should have gone and they won't. So he sends his servants out into the street, that's the apostles and the 144,000, to go and invite those who were never invited before, that is to say atheists, to come to the wedding feast, that is to say the Last Supper, which is in the upper room, which is to say heaven. Go out into the streets and find those who never thought they would be part of this feast and tell them about the delicious food and invite them in. They are welcome.
And they become wine.
And they do, and he becomes drunken on the wine. And that's yes, absolutely. Absolutely. If you know that you just saved somebody from eternal damnation and death, you might be a little bit elated about it too. Maybe. So as they go into heaven, and heaven leaves, once destroying the planet, heaven leaves the proximity of the planet. That is, and heaven rolled up like a scroll, and no mountains could be found, for they melt like wax. And there was no ocean, and there was no islands. And the whole thing was a great ocean, a sea of nothing but fire. That is to say, it melted. Which is why the mountains would melt like wax. But that's what would happen if you removed the oceans. That totally follows. And the first time it's given in that order. That it would now it's referred to out of order, but who cares? It would still be the result. And then heaven rolls up like a scroll, and every mountain is moved. That is to say, they left. But there's going to be a new heaven and a new earth. Like at the end of our earth, we see the new Jerusalem descending out of God's heaven. That's our new home. It will be adorned not like a bride, for the bride. That's a bad translation. It will be cleaned. Well, if someone's gifting you a car, yeah, they should have it detailed. So it's cleaned up. It's all prepared. Everybody who can ascend has ascended. Jesus enters in first, and then the rest of his earth's people enter in behind him. And then they leave. That's it. That's the end of the story. But there's going to be a new earth. Go ahead and flip the Bible over, go back to Genesis 1 creation story, and read it again. Just flip it over. Because it's going to happen again. That's what it's saying. Now, this is why, and some Christians are very confused about this point. So Jesus and God come for end times, and they take over and they win. Then they immediately relinquish it back to Satan, who rules for 1,000 years. No. Man, you got a weak God. Don't know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It's talking about the next earth and the same thing happening there. That's why there'll always be a new heaven, is because of population increase. And where does the population increase come from? A new earth.
Beautiful. Adorned like a bride. I love it.
Adorned for the bride.
For the bride, right.
That means us, the people.
It was making it appealing to us. So,
yeah, absolutely.
All
How
polished.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I'll bet
New
they're very
concept.
excited about the idea. Because they at that event, yes, famine, yes, starvation, yes, death, come Lord come. Despite this, yet this, come Lord come, is how the book closes out. That's the next to the last topic in the Bible at all. Or no, it is the last topic in the Bible at all, come to think of it. So despite these things, come Lord come. It's right after the warning not to change anything. Is to say, yes, it's going to be hard, but we're elevating these people into their new paradigm. It's their genesis. This is their beginning. This is when they become. This is when they realize how important they are. This is when they have the awakening, it's sometimes called. The enlightenment of man, sometimes called that in some expressions. But we're way over. We're like a half an hour over now, guys. I'm sorry. And if I'm rambling, I wish you'd tell me I'm rambling.
No, it's good.
But I am out of gas myself. Maybe it's time to sign off. How do you guys feel?
That's fine.
Well, we got 7 viewing. That's the perfect time to shut off. Is it not the perfect number?
Perfect number. All right. Gentlemen,
All right.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
As always, peace and respect to you both.
Peace and respect to you as well.
You too.
All right, everybody that showed up, and I appreciate you. Of which atheist edge, I'm assuming that's Master Sergeant Jim. And
Nice.
Ox, and also the African Humanist, and Jill, and Moon Medi. Didn't want to miss Moon. First one to show up today. Thank you all very, very much. I hope that you'll consider this as a possibility. I do not expect you to be a sheeple that believes anything that I say. But go and look these things up for yourself. You're going to find what I found if you just go look. It doesn't make any sense to me at all if I say I reject the Bible based on Christians saying things that don't make sense. So I reject the Christian reading frame, but I keep imposing it on the Bible. Think about that for just a moment. You know they're freaking nuts. Don't believe them. Now thoroughly don't believe them. Go read it for yourself. I want y'all to know I truly do look forward to the day that we're all great friends. Until next time.